political science professor Dan Birdsong. Professor, what do these Republican hardliners want?
There is some that are kind of concerned about power of the speaker, that position of the speaker. So they want less power for the Speaker of the House and more power for their members. So this includes ways in which to bring motions to remove the Speaker in the future, if it comes to that. And some of it has to do with kind of governing generally, like less spending, kind of generally, and kind of how they would proceed on some legislation. It may have to do with just spending, a little harder lines on immigration. And so, I mean, the problem for the House as it's going to go forward is that you're dealing with really small majorities. And so it's going to be excruciatingly difficult to get things passed.
How might their wants impact the American people?
Well, it really comes down to, can they, when they see a problem, can they actually solve the problem through legislation, right? Now, this is kind of one of the products of our political environment right now. There are a lot of members of Congress who don't see their role as problem solvers. They use their platform for other purposes. And so it's going to be one of those things is, can Congress solve problems that people care about, that they need to solve, big problems and small problems. And so it's going to impact Americans whether or not they get the relief they might need in times of crisis that might be coming. The legislative branch is there to address long-term big problems through legislation. And the absence of votes, the absence of kind of a clear process, make it harder for lasting change in a political system.
It's day 3 of ballots. What do you make of this situation?
It's what one would expect if you watched this process, a month ago, and kind of the rumblings there, right? It's also kind of a sad state of affairs. So it's kind of a mess, right? But it's also kind of expected when you have razor thin majorities and you have you're talking about 20 of 222 Republicans that are keeping a person from becoming the Speaker of the House. This seems to be a very kind of inside the Beltway kind of problem. They're really thinking about their individuals are thinking about their power and not what their job is and who they represent. I don't think there seems to be a big disconnect between that. But this is also not entirely surprising, because the trend toward kind of individualism in our politics in the United States has been growing since, really the 1970s. And certainly within the House, we've seen that kind of exacerbated over the last 20 years or so.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Professor Dan Birdsong.
My pleasure. Thank you.